The accident nearly killed me, but finding out my wife was cheating while I lay in hospital broke me worse. The night of the accident started like any other Thursday evening. Rain was falling in cold sheets, the kind that makes streets shine and reflections blur. My wife, Emma, and I were driving home from a dinner with friends. I was tired but content. We had a few laughs and moments that made me think things were okay, maybe even good. Emma sat beside me, her fingers tapping nervously on her phone. I noticed it but didn't say anything. Sometimes she did that, scrolling or texting in silence, and it made me wonder if something was wrong. But I pushed it aside. After all, I loved her, and I wanted to believe she was happy with me. The roads were slick. I was driving carefully, but then, out of nowhere, a speeding car came around the bend, lost control, and slammed into the side of our car. The impact was brutal. My head hit the window, and everything went dark. When I woke up, it was to the sterile smell of hospital disinfectant, the beep of machines, and the painful throb in my ribs. The accident had shattered more than just the car. It had fractured my life in ways I hadn't imagined. Emma was nowhere to be found at first, and that unsettled me. When she finally came in, her eyes were red, but not from worry, more like something hidden behind a mask of fake concern. I wanted to ask her what was wrong, but my voice was weak, my body barely responding. Doctors told me the accident had left me with fractured ribs and a concussion. I'd be here for a while. The days that followed were a haze of painkillers and visitors. Friends came and went, but Emma stayed the longest. Or so I thought. Then the calls started. Strange calls on her phone, the hushed voices, the hurried texts when I looked away. My gut twisted into knots. Something was off. I couldn't explain it, but I felt it deep in my bones. Emma wasn't the woman I thought she was. Or maybe she had changed. Late one night, as I lay half-conscious, I heard her phone buzz. The message was brief but chilling. Can't wait to see you again. He's still in the hospital, but he won't be here long. My heart slammed in my chest. I had to know. I had to find out the truth, no matter how painful. I knew I had to see that message again, to make sure I hadn't imagined it. My fingers trembled as I reached over to her phone, lying on the bedside table. The screen lit up, showing the text from just moments ago. It was there, plain as day. My hands shook violently as I read the words again. Can't wait to see you again. He's still in the hospital, but he won't be here long. My breath hitched. My mind raced to make sense of what it meant. Who was she talking to? What did "won't be here long" mean? Was it about me? Was it a sick joke? I felt a cold knot in my stomach, the kind that warns you of something terrible lurking beneath the surface. Emma stirred beside me. Her eyes fluttered open, and she caught me holding her phone. Panic flashed in hers, but she masked it quickly with a tired smile. "Hey, you're awake," she whispered, voice soft but strained. I was worried. I wanted to ask who she was texting, but the words got stuck in my throat. Instead, I nodded weakly. The next few days were hell. I couldn't stop thinking about that message. I wanted to confront her, but needed proof. I started paying attention to every little detail. The way she hid her phone when I was around, the furtive glances, the sudden text replies she whispered under her breath. One evening, while Emma stepped out to get coffee, I seized my chance. I grabbed her phone and unlocked it using the familiar passcode she never bothered to change. My heart pounded in my chest as I scrolled through her messages, the dam bursting with every line I read. Text from a man named Mark. Flirty, affectionate, urgent. Miss you already. Can't wait to hold you. Tell me when he's out of the way. The pieces fell together like shattered glass. She was cheating. While I lay broken, vulnerable in a hospital bed, she was planning meetings with someone else. I felt sick, betrayed, angry, and yet there was a voice deep inside me that whispered, wait, don't let her win. When Emma returned, I confronted her with the messages. Her face went pale, eyes wide with shock and something else, guilt, fear, but she didn't deny it. I'm sorry, she said quietly, tears brimming. It just happened. I was lonely, scared. I didn't know how to tell you. But her apology rang hollow. This wasn't just a mistake. It was a betrayal that cut deep. I wanted answers, but most of all, I wanted to protect myself from the pain that was spreading inside me like wildfire. I realized then that this accident had not only broken my body, but had also shattered the foundation of my marriage. I had to decide, fight to save us or walk away. The days after the confrontation were some of the hardest I'd ever endured. Emma's apologies poured out like a broken dam, but I wasn't sure if I could hear them anymore. Her words were tangled in guilt, fear, and regret, but all I could see was the truth I'd uncovered. The woman I loved had betrayed me when I was most vulnerable. Hospital visits, physical therapy, and the endless hum of machines became the backdrop to a collapsing world inside me. Each glance at Emma felt like a jab to my ribs, sharper than any pain medicine could dull. Yet, despite everything, I couldn't bring myself to send her away. Maybe it was the years we'd shared, the memories that seemed to cling to every corner of our lives, or maybe it was the hope that beneath the hurt, there was still something real. One evening, after a particularly rough day, filled with unbearable pain, Emma sat beside me quietly. She didn't speak for a long time, just held my hand as I stared blankly at the ceiling. "Do you hate me?" she finally whispered. The question cut deep. Hate wasn't exactly the feeling boiling inside me. It was more complicated: disappointment, heartbreak, anger, and an overwhelming sadness that I didn't know how to express. "I don't know," I admitted honestly, "but I know I don't know who you are anymore." Her eyes filled with tears, and I saw the woman who had once been my best friend struggling to break free from the web she'd woven. That night, I made a decision. I wasn't going to be the victim. If Emma wanted to betray me, then I wouldn't let it define me. But I also knew I couldn't just walk away broken. I wanted the truth. I wanted to understand how far this had gone. I started digging quietly. Late nights, searching through her phone, tracing calls, even asking friends if they'd noticed anything unusual. What I uncovered shocked me even more than the initial messages. Emma and Mark weren't just texting. They'd met in secret multiple times, even during the days I was unconscious in the hospital. There were photos hidden on her phone, messages with explicit details about their encounters. The betrayal was deeper than I had imagined. Anger surged through me. But instead of breaking, I began to think about revenge. Not petty or cruel, but something that would make her realize what she had done. I wanted her to feel the weight of her actions. But how? I was stuck in a hospital bed, recovering from broken bones and bruised dreams. The power to act felt distant. Yet, somewhere in that dark place, a plan began to form. Days blurred into nights as I slowly pieced together Emma's double life. My hospital room became a war zone, not just of healing, but of secrets and betrayal. Every visitor, every whispered phone call added fuel to the fire burning inside me. Emma's guilt was a fragile mask that barely covered the lies beneath. One afternoon, as I lay staring at the ceiling, an idea took root, a way to turn the tables without losing myself to bitterness. I would expose her, not to humiliate, but to confront her with the truth so undeniable she couldn't deny it anymore. And in doing so, maybe I could finally reclaim the control she had stolen from me. I reached out to Mark. Yes, the man who had been sleeping with my wife while I was broken and helpless. I found his number, masked my voice, and called him under a false name. I pretended to be a friend of Emma's, someone curious and concerned. His arrogance was apparent right away. He thought he had everything under control. "Emma? Yeah, she's mine," he sneered down the line. "She's with me now. No way she's coming back to you." His words hit me like a punch. But I kept calm, knowing this was the key to the game. "We'll see," I said coldly. "I'm watching everything." From that moment on, I crafted a silent plan of retribution. I started recording their conversations when they thought no one was listening. I gathered evidence of Emma's deceit, texts, photos, calls, everything meticulously documented. I wasn't going to let this slide. At the same time, I pushed my recovery hard. Every physical therapy session, every painful breath was a step toward reclaiming my strength, my dignity. I wasn't going to be the broken man they thought I was. Emma noticed. Her smiles became forced, her eyes wary. The guilt weighed on her, but so did the fear. She knew I was onto her, but she didn't know the full extent. One night, when the hospital was quiet, I sat Emma down and showed her the evidence on my phone. The photos, the messages, the calls. Undeniable proof. Her face crumbled. "Please, it's not what you think," she begged. "I was lonely. I was scared. You changed after the accident." I shook my head. "I didn't change, Emma. You just decided I wasn't enough." The room was thick with tension. But beneath it all, I felt a cold clarity. This wasn't just about us anymore. It was about me, my survival, my dignity. I told her I needed time, that I wasn't ready to forgive. And for the first time in months, I felt a flicker of hope. Hope that someday I'd rise from this wreckage stronger than before. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of emotional chaos. Emma stayed by my side out of obligation, guilt, or maybe desperation, but the warmth we once shared was gone, replaced by an icy silence. Every glance we exchanged carried the weight of unspoken words, regret, and shattered trust. I began therapy, not just physical but emotional. I needed to understand how to rebuild myself from the ruins she had left behind. My therapist, a kind woman named Lisa, became a lifeline. In her office, I confronted my pain, my anger, and my heartbreak. She told me something I wasn't ready to hear. Healing would come, but only if I allowed myself to let go of the past. It wasn't easy. Each day felt like a battle between holding on and moving forward. The memories of the accident, the betrayal, the nights when I lay awake wondering if I was ever truly loved haunted me relentlessly. One evening, Emma surprised me. She sat down, eyes filled with tears, and said, "I want to fix this. I want to fight for us." But I hesitated. Could I trust her again? Was she truly remorseful? Or was this just another desperate plea? I decided to test her. I told her I needed honesty. No more lies, no more secrets. For the first time, she opened up fully. She confessed everything. The loneliness, the fear, the nights she cried alone while I was unconscious. But she also admitted her mistakes and the pain she caused. We began to talk, really talk about what went wrong, what we both needed, and if there was still a chance to rebuild. It was messy, painful, and raw. But there was a flicker of something real, a possibility. Meanwhile, the man, Mark, disappeared from our lives. I confronted him one last time, face to face, outside a coffee shop. I didn't yell or fight. I looked him in the eyes and said, "You took something from me, but I'm taking it back." Mark smirked, but saw the fire in my gaze. "Good luck." I walked away feeling lighter, like a weight had lifted. But just when I thought the worst was behind me, life had one final, cruel twist in store. It was a cold morning when the call came. My doctor's voice was serious, calm but urgent. "There's something we found in your scans. It's concerning." I sat up straighter, heart pounding. After everything, the accident, the betrayal, the emotional wreckage, I wasn't prepared for this. The tests revealed a shadow on my lung, something unexpected and frightening. Cancer. The word echoed in my mind like a cruel joke. Emma was there, her hand gripping mine tightly. In that moment, all the anger, the betrayal, the pain, it all felt insignificant compared to the fight ahead. We faced the diagnosis together, but it changed everything. The battle wasn't just between us anymore. It was against a relentless enemy inside my own body. Treatment began, chemotherapy, endless hospital visits, side effects that drained me of energy and hope. Emma became my caretaker, her eyes filled with a new kind of fear and regret. I saw her differently now. The woman who had hurt me was also the woman fighting alongside me, trying to make amends in the only way she knew how. But the emotional scars ran deep. I struggled to reconcile the love I once had with the betrayal that had nearly destroyed me. Could forgiveness be possible when everything felt so fragile? One night, as I lay weak and exhausted, Emma whispered, "I don't deserve you." I wanted to reply, to tell her I didn't know if I deserve her either. But instead, I just held her hand and closed my eyes. The fight for my life had become the fight for our souls. And then the unthinkable happened. The unthinkable was not what I expected. It wasn't a sudden collapse or a nightmare prognosis. It was Emma's confession. One evening, after a long day of chemo, she sat beside me with tears streaming down her face. Her voice was barely a whisper, heavy with remorse. "There's something else," she said. "Something I've been hiding." My heart lurched, bracing for more betrayal. "I'm pregnant," she said, her eyes searching mine. "I didn't know until recently." "It's Mark's." The words slammed into me like a freight train. I wanted to scream, to curse, to shut her out forever. But all I could do was lie there numb. Emma's tears fell harder. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen. I want to do the right thing, but I'm scared." Scared. That word echoed in my mind. Fear, pain, confusion, love, hate, all tangled in a storm I couldn't control. For days, I wrestled with what to do. The accident, the cheating, the cancer, and now this. A child not mine growing inside the woman I once trusted completely. My world was crumbling, yet somehow I found strength in the chaos. I was fighting for my life, and somehow I had to find a way to fight for my dignity too. I told Emma she needed to decide what she wanted. If she wanted to keep the baby, to be honest, and try to rebuild something real, we would face it together, but only if she was committed to truth. She nodded, a fragile hope in her eyes. I didn't know how this story would end, but one thing was certain. I wasn't going to disappear quietly into heartbreak. I was going to fight, for myself, for the truth, and for whatever future might still be possible. The following weeks were a tempest of emotions and tough choices. Emma's pregnancy added a new layer of complexity to an already fractured marriage. I wanted to hate her, to reject the unborn child as a symbol of betrayal, but deep down, I knew the child was innocent, an unknowing casualty of adult mistakes. The chemotherapy took its toll on me, weakening my body but strengthening my resolve. Each treatment left me exhausted, but I clung to the idea that survival wasn't just about beating cancer. It was about reclaiming my life from the wreckage of lies and betrayal. Emma started attending counseling with me. We didn't speak of the past easily, but slowly, a fragile thread of communication wove between us. The pregnancy brought with it a strange mixture of hope and dread. Could this new life be the glue to fix what was broken? Or was it a bitter reminder of everything we had lost? One afternoon, I received a letter. It wasn't from Emma, but from Mark. He'd found out about the pregnancy and sent a message laced with arrogance and cruelty. "Enjoy your little secret," it read. "She's mine, not yours. And she always will be." The letter ignited a fury I thought had died in the hospital bed. But instead of lashing out, I used it as fuel to protect what was left of my dignity. I forwarded the letter to my lawyer and began documenting everything. If this man wanted to make things difficult, I was ready. I realized that revenge, if it was to come, wouldn't be about destruction. It would be about reclaiming power. I would protect myself, my health, and the future, whatever that might look like. Emma and I started making difficult decisions together, planning for the future of the baby, talking honestly about custody and boundaries. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. One night, as the rain poured outside, Emma and I sat silently, holding hands. For the first time in months, I felt something I hadn't allowed myself to feel: peace. The road ahead was uncertain, but for once, I believed maybe we could survive. The day Emma gave birth was the most surreal day of my life. After months of pain, secrets, and shattered trust, a tiny, fragile life entered the world, a symbol of both betrayal and hope. I stood in the hospital corridor, my heart pounding as I waited for the news. When the nurse finally appeared, holding a swaddled bundle, I felt an overwhelming surge of emotion. Love, fear, anger, and protectiveness all colliding at once. Emma was exhausted, but smiling softly. The baby was healthy, a beautiful girl with Emma's eyes, and, painfully, Mark's undeniable presence in our tangled story. Holding her in my arms, I realized that this child was not a weapon or a symbol of revenge. She was innocent, and despite everything, I made a silent vow to protect her from the chaos that had defined the last year of my life. The coming weeks were a blur of sleepless nights and hospital visits, my own recovery and the baby's first days. Emma and I tried to find a new rhythm, navigating co-parenting and fracture emotions. But just as I thought we might be building a fragile new foundation, Emma dropped another bombshell. "I want to leave," she said one evening, voice barely above a whisper. "I need to find myself. This marriage, it's broken beyond repair." I was stunned. I thought we were trying, healing, surviving. But her words cut through me like a knife. "Where will you go?" I asked, swallowing the lump in my throat. "Somewhere far," she replied. "Somewhere I can be alone." I wanted to beg her to stay, to fight one last time. But deep down, I knew it was over. That night, I realized that sometimes, even when you survive the worst storms, the aftermath can be just as devastating. The days after Emma left were the loneliest I'd ever known. The house felt empty. Echoes of laughter and love turned to silence and shadows. I was left to face the wreckage, my battered body, my broken heart, and a future that felt uncertain and cold. But amid the ruins, I found a new kind of strength. The accident had taken much from me, but it hadn't taken everything. I had survived the physical pain, the betrayal, and even a threat to my life. Most importantly, I was still here, alive, breathing, and ready to rebuild on my own terms. I focused on the baby, my daughter, who became the brightest light in a dark time. Despite the chaos that brought her into this world, she was pure hope, a reason to keep moving forward. The legal battles with Mark were difficult, but I fought fiercely to protect my family. The court recognized my role as her father, the man who loved and cared for her, regardless of biology. Slowly, the physical wounds healed and the emotional scars softened. I learned to forgive, not for Emma's sake, but for my own peace. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting or excusing what happened. It meant reclaiming my power and refusing to be defined by betrayal. Years later, I still carry the pain of that dark chapter, but I also carry the lessons. I learned that love can break and heal in the same breath, that betrayal can reveal hidden strength, and that sometimes survival is the greatest revenge. Looking back, I don't hate Emma. I don't hate Mark. I simply choose to live beyond the pain, with my daughter's laughter as my reminder that even from the worst wreckage, life can bloom again.